Roof of Africa rally brought the curtain down on this year's South African off-road season, with 3-times winner Richard Schilling looking for a repeat performance.
The quicker we can get in the lead, the better. That's what I'd like to do. I'd like to start first in the road tomorrow morning too, and build up a bit of a gap in case of a puncture or something like that.
The Roof of Africa, one of the toughest races of its kind in the world, got underway with the traditional round-the-houses sprint through the streets of Maseru. The round-the-houses sprint draws enthusiastic crowds and sets the mood for an event any off-road racer worth his salt hates to miss. The Roof is never won on the first day, but the dash through Maseru allows drivers to let off some early steam. It also gets a little congested. The spectacular Isuzu, in the hands of Linton Draper, is a favourite with the crowds. Draper was soon embroiled in a battle with Richard Schilling and Ashley Thorne in the Motortech Raceco, with Rob Walk well-paced in the Superpave single-seater. An over-enthusiastic Richard Carolan gave himself and some spectators a serious wake-up call. It was a nasty moment, but no one was hurt in the incident, and it did nothing to dampen the enthusiasm of the crowd, many of whom turned up early in the morning to claim favourite vantage points. In the round-the-houses sprint, Richard Schilling and Ashley Thorne finally got the better of Linton Draper and Mike Katzmark in the Isuzu, with Rob Walk third. Harry Roscoe came in fourth, with Klaus Degener and Mike Pretorius fifth in the BP Chenoweth, but the Roof really got underway with racing in Section 1. The opening section took crews on a 520-kilometre haul through the Lesotho lowlands and the dreaded Maluti Mountains. The strategy for defending champions Richard Schilling and Ashley Thorne was to open up an early lead and to then dictate the pace of the race from the front. It worked for the pair last year, but Rob Walk was putting the early leaders under a great deal of pressure in the Superpave single-seater. Walk also had to watch his back for Linton Draper and Mike Katzmark in the ultra-quick Isuzu. The early battle up front was an interesting one. Draper and Katzmark were being chased by Harry Roscoe in the Protea playing card Raceco. Like Rob Walk up ahead, Roscoe was the victim of a major crash in the 1992 Roof. Not far behind Roscoe were the father and son team of Franz Czepek Sr. and Franz Czepek Jr. in the newly imported V-Motors Raceco. They, in turn, had the turbocharged dealer team Toyota Hilux of Bucks Carolan and Jeff Bell breathing down their necks. Also in contention were Klaus Degener and Mike Pretorius in the BP Chenoweth, with Degener in his usual aggressive driving mode. It was an interesting scenario, with the big guns snapping at each other's heels. By the end of the day, Rob Walk had sneaked ahead of the Schilling-Thorne combination, with Linton Draper and Mike Katzmark third in the Isuzu Bucky.
I'd like to actually go out and try and set a pace that Richard's going to have a problem. If not, if I can't keep that pace, I'll hook him behind Richard and try and use him as a navigator.
Unpredictable weather at this time of the year often adds to the woes of Roof competitors. There were ominous-looking clouds in evidence as Rob Walk led the field away on racing stage 2. Walk was followed by Richard Schilling and Ashley Thorne, with the race not going quite according to plan for the pair. Linton Draper was happy with his third place in the bright yellow Isuzu, but once again was to find himself among the non-finishers. The Roof also has a reputation for producing wet conditions, and after recent rains there was plenty of water about. The experienced Schilling-Thorne combination took the precaution of navigator Thorne doing a quick recce at this river crossing. Schilling made the trip on his own with no problem. Both Peter Fumfai and Dagmar Blankner, like Thorne, a Lesotho resident, were not so lucky. The Astoria Raceco was almost home and dry when Mud and Water scored a minor victory. After a quiet racing Section 1, experienced Springboks Arpi Reneke and Lucas Dreyer were quietly working their way through the field in the dealer team Toyota Land Cruiser. Harry Roscoe was also running strongly in the Protea playing card Raceco and looked to be heading for a good result. Toyota 1000 Desert Race winners John Lambert and Eric Scholz in the Hewlett Digidor were also starting to make their presence felt. The pair had picked up a number of places, with the Czepek father and son team also going well. With the V-Motors Raceco behaving impeccably, the Chepiks looked to have opted for a conservative approach with no heroics. Also starting to make their presence felt was another pair of Springboks in Cassie Coetzee and Richard Leek in the Toyota dealer Team Hilux. The pair had played a waiting game in the early stages, but were now starting to step up their pace. After his antics in the Round the Houses race, Richard Carolyn had settled for a more conservative approach in the Lubrication Equipment Raceco. Carolyn was also in touch with the leaders and going along steadily. One of the beauties about the Roof of Africa is the constantly changing terrain. From river crossings to fast lowland sections to rocky mountain passes, the Roof has it all. There was also a dramatic turnabout in race fortunes. Front runners had dropped out or were running into mechanical problems, and Toyota teammates Cassie Coetzee and Richard Leek and R.P. Reiniger and Lucas Dreyer suddenly found themselves involved in a battle for the lead. It was often slow going on the rough mountain passes, with conserving machinery the main concern for crews. The Chepik father and son team was right up with the leaders in the V-Motors Raceco, along with John Lambert and Eric Scholz in the Hewlett Digidor. Lambert and Scholz had moved up to 4th place, but it was not all plain sailing for defending champions Richard Schilling and Ashley Thorne. They were gradually dropping back in the Motortech Raceco and were slowly coming under attack from the husband and wife team of Marius and Edith Bahrain in the Toyota Raceco. Quad race leader Derek Johnson was also going well, but by the end of racing section 2, the complexion of the race had changed. Only 1 second separated the dealer team Toyota crews of Coetzee, Leek and Reiniger Dreyer, with the Chepik father and son team nearly an hour in arrears in the first space frame car.
Well, I reckon the other ones seemed like a ride in the park, but this one seemed a hell of a lot longer and a hell of a lot more difficult because it was very wet and these cars are just not cut out for the wet. It's an ideal race for buckies and 4x4s.
The leading Toyotas set off on racing section 3, the last leg of the Roof, almost simultaneously. With no team orders, it was going to be a fight to the last between two highly experienced crews. For Coetzee and Leek, it had been a disappointing season up to the Roof, with Reiniger and Dreyer enjoying contrasting fortunes in both the South African off-road sprint and marathon series. It did not take long for the expected battle of the Toyotas to develop. It was a case of Springboks versus Springboks and Toyota Land Cruiser versus Toyota Hilux. The Chepik team started the day around 13 minutes up on Marius and Edith Bahrain. In a straight fight, neither team had much chance of overhauling the two Toyotas. Both the Chepiks and Bahrains had to force the pace, but the best they could hope for was for Coetzee, Leek and Reiniger Dreyer to run into problems in the lead Toyotas. As it was, the Chepiks came under tremendous pressure from the Bahrains in the early stages of racing section 3. With battles raging for 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th places, it was turning into a highly interesting race. Also, players in the battle for the minor placings were John Lambert and Eric Scholz in the Hewlett Digidor, who were starting to fly in an effort to put pressure on the Bahrains and Chepiks. Derek Pinot and Andre Opperman in the Jimco, with driver and navigator sitting in tandem, had also taken advantage of race casualties to move into 6th place, ahead of Wolf Peter Fumfai and Dagmar Blankner in the Astoria Bakery Raceco. The Toyota battle ended 60 kilometers from the finish when the Reiniger Dreyer Land Cruiser ran out of brakes. This left the way open for Cassie Coetzee and Richard Leek to open up a 5-minute gap at the front of the field. Coetzee and Leek scored their biggest win of the season just when it mattered most. It was a popular victory, with the unfortunate R.P. Reiniger and Lucas Dreyer completing a 1-2 triumph for Toyota in the Land Cruiser. The Chepiks were a comfortable 3rd. The traditional champagne said it all for Coetzee and Leek.
That was a tough one. For 1,000 kilometers, that's not easy, especially in the truck. It was rough and it was wet, and some places quite high speed. But at the end of the day, we've got the results, and I'm quite pleased about it.
The Playing Card are proud to present